I'm thinking, with this car, just like the shoe on, I'm thinking a Bugatti not going to sell us parts for it, but they might actually sell us parts, because there's no reason or no excuse on why they shouldn't sell us parts for this Veyron.
When people think about the world's most expensive and exclusive cars, one name almost always comes to mind first: Bugatti. For over a century, Bugatti has built a reputation that few car companies can match. Its cars are not simply fast machines. They are symbols of engineering perfection, luxury, and status. Owning a Bugatti is something most people can only dream about, because even the cheapest models cost millions of dollars. Every Bugatti is carefully built using advanced technology, powerful engines, and handcrafted details that make it feel more like a piece of art than a normal automobile. The Bugatti Veyron, in particular, changed the automotive world forever. When it was introduced, it became famous for being the first production car to produce over 1,000 horsepower, while also breaking speed records that many experts believed were impossible. Because of this incredible achievement, Bugatti built an image around perfection. The company wanted customers to believe that every Bugatti should only be repaired by specially trained technicians using official parts inside authorized service centers. That policy helped protect the brand's reputation, but also made maintaining these cars incredibly expensive. Even simple repairs could cost tens of thousands of dollars, while major repairs often reached hundreds of thousands. Most owners simply accepted these costs because they believed there was no other option. But that belief would soon be challenged by someone who had already made a name for himself by doing what many people thought could never be done. That person was Matt Armstrong. Before becoming one of YouTube's biggest automotive creators, Matt was known as a professional BMX rider. After stepping away from professional sports, he turned his passion toward repairing damaged supercars. Unlike traditional mechanics who usually avoid badly crashed luxury cars, Matt saw them as exciting challenges. Over the years, millions of viewers watched him rebuild Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, and other high-end vehicles that insurance companies had already written off as complete losses. His videos became popular because he showed every mistake, every challenge, and every success instead of pretending everything went perfectly. People enjoyed watching him solve problems that even experienced mechanics sometimes refused to touch. His reputation grew even larger when he successfully rebuilt a crashed Bugatti Veyron, a project that many believed was impossible outside Bugatti's own factory. That rebuild proved that independent workshops could achieve things that manufacturers claimed only official technicians were capable of doing. Although the project attracted worldwide attention, it also created tension between Matt and Bugatti. Many people wondered whether the company appreciated what he was doing or saw him as someone challenging its authority. Those questions became even more important when another opportunity appeared. This time, it involved the Bugatti Veyron that had been taken back by a repossession company after its previous owner was faced with an enormous repair bill. According to the information that came with the car, the gearbox had failed, and the estimated repair cost was somewhere between $300,000 and $350,000. For most people, hearing such a number would immediately end the conversation. Spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on one repair sounded completely unreasonable. But Matt Armstrong looked beyond the frightening estimate. He believed there had to be another explanation, and if anyone could uncover the truth, it would be someone willing to question every assumption. What started as the purchase of another broken supercar would soon become one of the biggest repair stories on YouTube, raising serious questions about repair costs, manufacturer control, and whether Bugatti was truly protecting its customers, or simply protecting its business model. The moment the Bugatti Veyron arrived at Matt Armstrong's workshop, it was clear that this project would be very different from anything he had tackled before. Even though the car looked beautiful from the outside, everyone knew something serious was wrong beneath its body. The previous owner had reportedly been told that the gearbox needed replacing, and that single diagnosis came with a shocking repair estimate of around $300,000 to $350,000. That amount alone was enough to convince the owner to give up on the car instead of fixing it. For most people, receiving a repair quote that cost more than many luxury homes would seem unbelievable, but this is the reality of owning some of the world's most exclusive hypercars. Bugatti has always maintained that only its factory-trained technicians have the knowledge, tools, and equipment needed to repair these cars correctly. Since the Veyron is packed with advanced technology, many owners simply trust whatever the manufacturer tells them. But Matt has built his entire career by questioning expensive repair estimates and proving that many damaged supercars can be saved with patience, research, and determination. Instead of assuming the gearbox was destroyed, he wanted to investigate every possible cause before replacing such an expensive component. His experience had taught him one important lesson. Expensive cars can sometimes suffer from surprisingly simple problems. This mindset would soon lead to one of the most talked about discoveries in his entire YouTube career. Before taking anything apart, Matt carefully examined the car, checked its condition, and listened to how it behaved. The engine started, which was already a positive sign because replacing or rebuilding a Bugatti W16 engine can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. The interior looked clean, the exterior had been well cared for, and there were no obvious signs of major accident damage. Everything suggested that this Veyron still had plenty of life left if someone could identify the real fault. As Matt began testing the transmission, he noticed that the gearbox refused to engage any gear. The selector moved, but the car stayed completely still. Under normal circumstances, this symptom would immediately support the original diagnosis of a failed gearbox. However, Matt refused to jump to conclusions. Instead of ordering an expensive replacement, he started tracing every electrical and hydraulic system connected to the transmission. Modern performance cars depend heavily on electronics, and one small electrical fault can sometimes create symptoms that appear far more serious than they really are. That careful approach soon paid off. During his inspection, Matt discovered that one small fuse had blown. This fuse controlled the hydraulic gearbox pump, a system responsible for building the pressure needed for the transmission to change gears. Without hydraulic pressure, the gearbox could not operate, making it appear completely broken even though its internal components were perfectly healthy. It was an astonishing discovery because the solution cost only a few dollars. After replacing the tiny fuse, the hydraulic pump immediately came back to life. Pressure returned to the system, and the gearbox engaged properly without making any unusual noises. A repair that had supposedly required hundreds of thousands of dollars had suddenly become a repair worth less than the price of a cup of coffee. The moment quickly spread across the internet because it challenged the original diagnosis in a dramatic way. Viewers could hardly believe that a car abandoned because of an enormous repair estimate could drive again after such a simple fix. However, Matt knew the story was far from over. Fuses do not usually fail without a reason. They are designed to protect electrical systems from excessive current, which meant something else inside the car had caused the fuse to blow in the first place. Replacing the fuse solved the immediate problem, but did not solve the underlying cause. If that hidden issue remained, the same fuse could fail again at any moment. Instead of celebrating too early, Matt understood that the real investigation was only beginning. The easy victory had simply opened the door to a much larger mystery, one that would eventually expose hidden problems, surprising parts prices, and an ongoing battle with Bugatti itself. Finding the blown fuse was an incredible breakthrough, but Matt Armstrong refused to believe that the problem was truly solved. A fuse is designed to protect the system, not fail without a reason. If it burns out, it usually means that another component is drawing too much power or creating an electrical fault somewhere in the circuit. Simply replacing the fuse without finding the real cause would only delay the next failure. With that in mind, Matt continued taking the Veyron apart piece by piece, carefully following the wiring and inspecting every component connected to the hydraulic gearbox system. This was not an easy job. Unlike ordinary cars, the Bugatti Veyron was built with extremely tight packaging. Almost every part sits behind another part, meaning that reaching a simple electrical connector often requires removing panels, covers, and expensive components first. It is one of the reasons Bugatti service bills are so high. The work itself is often time-consuming because engineers designed the car for maximum performance rather than easy maintenance. As Matt continued his inspection, he noticed something unusual around the hydraulic gearbox pump. The plastic connector and surrounding wiring showed clear signs of heat damage. The connector had become brittle, and parts of it were beginning to break apart. This suggested that the pump had been working much harder than it should have for a long period of time. Eventually, the excessive load caused the fuse to fail, making the gearbox appear completely dead. This discovery raised another important question. Why had such a critical part worn out so badly, and how expensive would it be to replace? The answer, at first, seemed exactly what everyone expected from Bugatti. Officially, the complete hydraulic pump assembly carried a price of several $1,000s. For most owners, there would be no choice but to order the replacement directly through Bugatti and pay whatever price the company requested. But Matt had developed a habit of researching every single part before buying it. His previous rebuilds had taught him that many expensive supercars quietly share components with much more common vehicles built by the same parent company. Since Bugatti belongs to the Volkswagen Group, there was always a chance that some parts were being used elsewhere under different part numbers. After hours of research, comparing diagrams, supplier information, and manufacturer details, Matt made an astonishing discovery. The hydraulic pump itself was not an exclusive Bugatti invention at all. Mechanically, it was almost identical to a pump used in the roof mechanism of an Audi A6 Allroad. That meant the same basic motor could be purchased for only a small fraction of Bugatti's asking price. Instead of spending thousands of dollars on the official assembly, Matt bought the matching Audi pump for only a few €100. He carefully transferred the necessary wiring connections, installed a replacement, and restored the system to full operation. Once again, a repair that looked incredibly expensive turned out to have a far more affordable solution if someone was willing to do enough research. For many viewers, this became one of the most surprising moments of the entire project. It raised an obvious question. If Bugatti and Audi both belong to the Volkswagen Group, and the parts are so similar, why were customers paying such dramatically different prices? Of course, there are valid reasons for some price differences. Bugatti performs additional testing, quality control, and specialized installation procedures that naturally increase costs. However, the enormous gap between the official price and the price of an almost identical component made many people question whether branding and exclusivity were contributing just as much as engineering. As if that discovery was not enough, Matt soon found himself dealing with another completely different issue. The engine was not running perfectly. Every now and then, the powerful W16 developed an annoying misfire that refused to disappear. Solving this problem would prove far more difficult than replacing a fuse or swapping a hydraulic pump. It would require careful diagnosis, expensive electronic testing, and a deep understanding of one of the most complicated production engines ever built. Just when it seemed the Veyron was finally moving in the right direction, another challenge appeared to remind everyone that owning a Bugatti is never as simple as fixing one obvious fault and driving away. While the transmission problems were becoming easier to understand, the engine introduced an entirely new set of challenges. The Bugatti Veyron is powered by one of the most extraordinary engines ever installed in a production car. It features an 8.0-liter quad-turbocharged W16 engine that combines the power of two V8 engines into one incredibly complex machine. Producing more than 1,000 horsepower, this engine was designed to push the limits of automotive engineering. It contains 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, countless sensors, and one of the most advanced engine management systems ever created. Every part must work perfectly because even a small fault can affect performance of the entire engine. During testing, Matt Armstrong noticed that the Veyron was not running as smoothly as it should. At times, the engine developed a noticeable misfire. Sometimes the problem appeared on cylinder 16, while on other occasions it seemed to affect different cylinders on the same bank. Tracking down a misfire on a normal 4-cylinder engine can already be difficult, but diagnosing one on a 16-cylinder Bugatti is a completely different challenge. Instead of guessing, Matt approached the problem methodically. He began swapping ignition coils and spark plugs between different cylinders to see if the fault would move with the parts. This is a common diagnostic method because if the misfire follows a specific coil or spark plug, then that component is likely defective. However, if the misfire remains on the same cylinder, the cause is usually something deeper inside the engine or its electronic control system. One by one, Matt eliminated possible causes. He inspected the spark plugs, tested the coil packs, and examined the wiring for signs of damage. The process required patience because each test only ruled out one possibility, while many others remained. The Veyron also uses an advanced ion-sensing ignition system that monitors combustion inside each cylinder. This technology helps the engine produce maximum performance while protecting itself from harmful conditions, but also makes diagnosis much more complicated. Some of the electronic modules responsible for reading this information are rumored to cost thousands of dollars each, meaning that replacing parts without proper testing could become an incredibly expensive mistake. Rather than spending money blindly, Matt continued searching for evidence before making any decisions. At the same time, another issue demanded his attention. During a pressure test of the cooling system, he discovered a tiny leak in one of the radiators. On most cars, replacing a damaged radiator is a fairly straightforward repair on a Bugatti Veyron. However, even this simple job becomes a major operation. The front bodywork, lights, panels, and several structural components often need to be removed just to gain access to the cooling system. The labor involved can quickly cost thousands of dollars before a new radiator is even installed. Looking for a temporary solution while continuing the restoration, Matt used a high-quality cooling system sealant to stop the small leak. Although some enthusiasts disliked this approach, the leak was extremely minor, and the repair allowed further testing without immediately dismantling the front of the car. It was a practical decision made to keep the project moving forward while other, more serious problems still required attention. These constant repairs highlighted an important lesson about restoring a hypercar. Every time one issue was solved, another one appeared. Instead of becoming discouraged, Matt simply treated each new challenge as another puzzle waiting to be solved. His viewers admired this attitude because they could see that rebuilding a Bugatti was not just about having money. It required patience, logical thinking, research, and a willingness to spend countless hours learning how every system worked. Yet despite all of his progress, one obstacle remained impossible to solve inside his own workshop. Certain parts could only be supplied directly by Bugatti, and obtaining them would soon become one of the most frustrating experiences of the entire rebuild. What began as a technical challenge was about to turn into a battle over customer service, manufacturer control, and whether an owner truly has the right to repair a car they legally own. After spending weeks solving mechanical problems that many people believe were impossible to fix outside an official Bugatti workshop, Matt Armstrong reached a point where he needed help directly from a manufacturer. Some components could not simply be purchased from an ordinary part supplier, no matter how much research he did. Certain electronic modules were locked behind Bugatti's authorized service network, meaning only official dealers could order them. Matt hoped that, as the legal owner of the car, getting the parts would be a straightforward process. After all, he was not asking for confidential engineering drawings or secret factory information. He simply wanted to buy genuine replacement parts so he could continue restoring a Bugatti that would otherwise remain unusable. What happened next surprised not only him, but also millions of viewers following the project. His first step was to contact Bugatti's customer service and parts department. He called the official Bugatti office in London, expecting to speak with someone who could point him in the right direction. Instead, nobody answered. He tried again and again, calling different departments, including service and parts, but each attempt ended the same way. The phones rang without response, messages went unanswered, and there was no clear path toward getting assistance. Thinking the issue might simply be with the local office, Matt expanded his search and contacted Bugatti's operations in other locations, including Paris. Unfortunately, that experience was not much better. Automated systems directed him through menus, but he still struggled to reach someone who could actually help with his situation. Days